Hey again and welcome to the channel. In our latest episode, we have covered pros and cons of running an agency on Upwork versus being a freelancer. If you missed that episode, make sure to check it out on my channel. The link will be in the description below. Today we will talk about how to get your first customers on Upwork as an agency. And I will be providing my experience only, something that worked for me, no generic Google advice, so you can take it and use it if applicable to your case. If you're interested in growing your agency on Upwork, continue watching. Now let's cover it step by step here, and the first step would be to register on Upwork. And let's dwell a little bit here, because I strongly recommend that you have some experience working on Upwork as an individual before creating an agency. Either you or your co-founder, if you're deciding to make this together with someone else, should have some experience of working on Upwork in the direction that you're going to build your agency on. This will be extremely important later on when you start looking for customers, and I will explain this later in our next steps. So the second step, after you gain some experience of working on Upwork as an individual, so you are already familiar with the platform and you know how to work there, the second step would be to create an agency, and this is a pretty simple step to do, so I won't be dwelling much here. So you create an agency, and the next step that you will have to take is to make your agency profile look attractive. And what I mean by that is to create a cover image that reflects what you're doing. For example, if you're creating a video editing agency, then you should not only put some attractive images on your cover image, but also to put services that you're providing, for example, YouTube editing or cartoons editing or doodles or whatever you're doing. So whatever services you're providing, you should include that in your cover image, because it catches the eye immediately, and sometimes people don't have the time to look through your entire profile. They only look at the title and what they see as a cover image. Of course, don't forget about the rates, the precise, concise, but at the same time informative description of what you're doing, and a little bit about your team. Now, I would also strongly recommend you having an intro video on your profile that will show your potential customers who you are. Maybe even if you can make some intro video with your team members, that is awesome. But if you can't, at least make some intro video that includes again your major services or something that represents you as a team. Now, the next step, to be able to add team members to your agency account and actually grow it into a business and a company on Upwork, you will have to buy a premium account on Upwork that costs $24 per month. And then you will be able to add new team members to your agency profile. And the next step you will want to do, that is to buy additional content so that you could apply on behalf of your team members to multiple projects. Because the more people you have in your team, the more people you need to provide with projects, and that means you will have to apply more and more. Now, the next step would be to look for your first customers. And here we transition straight into the topic of our video, that is how to get customers as a beginner agency on Upwork. Now, first and foremost, be prepared. Getting first customers on Upwork and getting customers on Upwork overall is way harder for agencies than it is for freelancers. Why? Because customers, they actually indicate it in their job descriptions, like no agencies please, or agencies don't bother. And the reasons to that are simple. The first one is that they are looking for some small fixes to do. For example, they are looking to remove some bug on their website or to provide some ontologies for their documents and so on. So they think that this issue is a small one, and they don't want to mess with the agencies because they think that when you start talking with agencies, it takes a lot of time. And to be honest, a lot of agencies do that. They waste a lot of time on communication, throwing the customer from one manager to another and not actually getting the right person to that customer so that they could discuss their details from the very start. So many agencies do that. Let's suppose you're not one of the kind, and we are not of the kind, but still it's harder to get the customers because, like I said, customers are looking for small fixes to do and they don't want to get involved with an agency. And the second reason is that customers In many cases, use Upwork as their recruiting space, recruiting platform, and they are posting the full-time position, and of course they want to hire that person on board and not via second hands. They don't want you in between as an agency to stand between them and that freelancer. The good news is that you can leverage this knowledge to get your first customers as an agency. And the major tips would be: first, use the profile of the most experienced freelancer in your agency to apply to projects. Use that profile as a fishing bait for your customers, because if they see someone experienced and someone with lots of hours worked on Upwork and charged and with like 100 success rate, of course they will respond to that application more eagerly than they would to a profile of freelancer who has like zero experience on Upwork, even though their skills match their expectations. So use the profile of the most experienced freelancer in your team as a fishing bait, even if you don't intend to do the job through that profile. And that's exactly what we did. Because after customers reply, you have two options. Either you talk them into sending the invite for the job to your less experienced freelancer who has less experience on Upwork, and then that freelancer will gain his first customer, and then his profile would look better, and then it will be easier to use that freelancer as a fishing bait, and so on. Or you can agree on a fixed price agreement and again re-outsource that project to your another freelancer with less experience on his or her profile. And that is exactly why I mentioned that you should first have experience working on Upwork before creating an agency, because through your already experienced profile you will be fishing, you will be getting customers, and you will be able to provide projects to your other team members who may be not having that great history on Upwork. Now, a small interruption: if you like the video so far, please give me a thumbs up and let's proceed. Now, the second tip would be to apply to smaller projects as well as to bigger ones. Don't apply to only big projects that promise like 1 to 5K per project, even if your minimum contract rate is like 10 grand, because Upwork is not a direct contract with the customer. On Upwork, you should build a reputation, you should build trustworthy relationship with the customer before they decide to outsource bigger amount of job to yourself. For example, if the job is like a small fix, like for $10, let's suppose it's so, and you will be having to pay your freelancer even more, your team member even more, but you understand that this client is promising and it might turn into a long-term opportunity, do that. So don't despise smaller projects. Take whatever small projects you can and build your reputation on Upwork. And in many cases, those smaller fixes turn to huge projects, huge long-term projects. For example, we took the contract from a customer who only needed some small fix for like $15, but then it turned to a project that paid us over 1,000. So it really depends on how you proceed with that customer and how he or she trusts you and what is the quality of the work you deliver, because if you do shitty work, nobody would want to work with you again. And the next tip I already mentioned, and that is building trust, because if you deliver that small fix brilliantly, who do you think those customers will turn to if they need bigger projects done? In many cases, long-term projects start with small fixes, so don't despise those smaller projects. Now, the next tip is don't be afraid to ask for a feedback, because you need a good feedback on your profile and a good success ratio to help you build relationships with other customers and to help you get more projects from other customers. If a client provided you with 5 stars rating, don't hesitate to contact them again and to ask them to resubmit this decision. Just explain to your customers that even 4 stars and 4.5 stars rating kills your response rate drastically. And in many cases, customers do agree to do that for free for you or for a small fix, but that is up to you. So make sure that you have a good feedback and, most importantly, 5 stars rating, because if the success ratio falls down on less than like 96%, that will kill your response rate, trust me. So 100% and 96, it makes a difference. And the next tip is to avoid toxic customers. I know it's very tempting to accept any invites that come your way, but in the history of mankind, if anything might go wrong, it will. If you feel pressured by the customer, or if you feel that something is wrong with them, or you dislike the way they behave or talk with you, don't work with them. Your reputation matters, especially your reputation on Upwork matters, and your feedback history is more important than the confirmation of the fact that the history of mankind never changes. Now, this way it worked for us, and unfortunately it took us several months to figure out this very simple strategy, so you now have a better alternative. Now, after you build your Upwork agency profile success ratio, and after you gain some experience working on Upwork, and after you gathered some good feedback, you can now apply to bigger projects and be sure that you have a better response ratio than as a beginner. And you can even raise the bar of your rates. Though I'll be honest here with you, we couldn't raise it more than $45 per hour, because on Upwork people are looking for lesser prices and lesser wages, and we only were able to raise it as high as $45 per hour, and that is only for senior person, for data architect. So for regular software development, I haven't seen many agencies that have a rate higher than $35 per hour. Of course, there are better cases than ours. We are not gurus, so we're still learning. If this is the case for you, and if you have some great story to share, please share it with us in the comments below. I'd love to read that, because like I said, I'm still learning all the time how to get better responses, how to write better, how to communicate better, and so on and so forth. So if you have a better story working on Upwork, please share with us in the comments below. Now, if you want to learn how to get long-term customers, make sure to be here on time next Wednesday. So subscribe and hit the bell icon to not miss our next episode. And I will be happy to see you. Give me a like if you don't mind, and I will be happy to see you next week as usual. I'll be waiting. Bye.